Hi, and welcome back to Campaign Prep, the D&D stream in which I, Nicholas Corey, prep one of my many D&D 5th edition campaigns. The campaign that we are prepping in this stream series is called the Stygian Queen. It is a completely homebrew campaign, so it's not a published campaign in any way. And this is episode 5. To give a very quick recap, and I mean very quick when I say that, because last stream episode I realized that all I did was recap the session. I didn't talk much about what I was actually going to do to prep. So this time, let's see, we have had 4 previous episodes of prep, and we have had 2 actual sessions of play. The second session was a pretty short one. It was only like 2 hours, just because of some scheduling issues with one of the players. So this is the prep session between that second play session and the third play session, which will be streaming a week from today, Friday night. And we usually start a little after 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, that start time fluctuates. It's entirely based on the schedules of the players involved. So I do apologize for not having a nailed down start time, but c'est la vie. Like I said, the Stygian Queen is a totally homebrew campaign. Our player characters, we have them here. This is the screen that we left on when last we played. They just finished up a combat encounter in this room against an ogre and 2 dread warriors. Those are, that was 1 CR2 ogre and 2 CR, I think the dread warriors are 1s. They're right here. Let's take a look real quick. The dread warriors are, CR 1s. So we had a total CR of 4 against 3 player characters of 3rd level. And then they leveled up after that encounter, and off screen we did their leveling and they picked their feats and all that. So now we have 3 4th level characters. Their power has gone up a little bit, but not like a significant amount. They got their ASIs, so like our sorcerer here put it into charisma. So he now has a +5 to charisma. He has 27 total hit points. He's currently at 22. And then he picked up the spell, or not the spell, the feat. I think he picked up Fey Touched. Where did he put it? Here we go. He put it under additional feats. So he picked up Fey Touched, so he increased his charisma by 3, 2 from the ASI and 1 from Fey Touch. So he's at 20 charisma now. He gains proficiency with 1 skill or tool of his choice, and then that's practiced expert. Fey Touch gives him spells. I think it gives him Misty Step and 1 other spell of his choice from enchantment or divination. Or enchantment or illusion, maybe? I don't remember. Anyway, nothing too much to worry about. The big thing about the sorcerer that I have to keep in mind from now on is that he has knock. And when he selected knock as a spell, I told him, I'm like, I'll definitely let that work, and it will work a lot of the time. But there will be some doors that it just won't work on, and I need you to respect that. And he's like, yeah, totally. He's like, totally understand. He's like, I could see how knock would kind of break this sort of campaign that we're doing, which is exploration in a ruined castle where locks and keys and everything are very much part of the suggested progression. But now that he has knock, that means I'm going to have to prepare more than what I originally expected, because they could be going behind doors and that I'm not, prepared for them to go behind. Then we have our Hexblade Warlock. He has 39 hit points, so no small amount. And then it looks like, he upped his charisma, and the feat he picked was tough, just to up his hit points, because he has gone down a few times, because he's a frontline. He's a Hexblade Warlock, so he's a frontline character. And he has good AC. He has AC 17, but his hit points were just too low. So at 4th level, he took Tough, and that added 8 hit points, and now every time he levels, it's going to add another 2. Tough is a great feat. I think that was a smart pick for him. Wasn't fun. Like, it wasn't the most fun pick he could have done, but it was smart. And then we have our Barbarian, whose, I realized our AC has been miscalculated every time. On the token, it said 16. On the character sheet, it said 14. He kept telling me 16. I went with that, but his AC is actually 14, so we're going to keep that in mind going forward. He now has 20 strength. So he put his ASI into his strength, and then he picked up the feat Overrun, which this is a custom feat. And this is great. This is something that I want to set up for him. So when we prep encounters today, that's something I'm going to think about is the Overrun feat. I don't want to set it up all the time, but I want to give him situations where it's obvious he should use it, and then I want to give him situations where he has to, it's a calculated risk, like, do I want to use this now? That sort of thing. Overrun basically lets him dash through enemies. So when he takes the dash action, he makes a single strength athletics check. And then every enemy in his path makes a strength athletics check. And for each enemy who succeeds steps out of his path. Each enemy who fails gets hit by him. He deals damage equal to his rage plus proficiency. So currently that's going to be like 4, I think. 2 plus 2. And then if he ends his movement in another enemy's space, he basically spears them. He tackles them. He makes a strength athletics check against them, and if they failed, the enemy's knocked prone. So that's it's a fun one that kind of shakes up the battlefield in a way that Barbarians should, in my opinion. It's very forceful and it's moving forward. So that'll be fun to see that in action. Shout out to my friend Casey, who helped design that feat for our Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign, which I won't talk about here. But I will mention that Rime of the Frostmaiden, that stream is going to start this coming Tuesday, September 1st at 7 p.m. right here on this channel. So if you want to watch me run a 6-player Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign from the very get-go, and I should specify that we're not actually starting the Rime of the Frostmaiden book until it releases sometime after September 15th. It comes out on the 15th, and we'll be transitioning into it sometime thereafter. But until then, we will be running the Encounters of the Week as published on D&D Beyond, which are designed to be like a gradual lead-in to the book itself. Player characters are starting at level 3. Again, we have 6 player characters. It's really exciting. I'm very excited for that campaign, so you should join us. Join us here next Tuesday. So anyway, back to here. They finished the combat, they leveled up, and they took a short rest. So they lost some of their hit dice, they gained some of their hit points back, but they're not all at full. Also, I should say that if I have any viewers currently, I'm trying using the music bed in the background. If it is too loud, please let me know, and I will adjust it. I keep kind of turning it down a little bit because I'm afraid it might be a little too loud. But so they took a short rest, and they are now, that's where we left off, leveled up and short rest. So what we have here, they're in like a sub-region of the castle. The maps are called the Asylum Maps, just because I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls recently, and I was like, yeah, sure, we'll call them that. They're not necessarily an asylum, but they are, as I have determined in a future encounter that we'll talk about, these maps are like representative of kind of like an underworld type area, or they're close to the abyss, that sort of thing. They're where souls go. Not all souls when they die, like that's kind of questioning. I kind of have that up in the air, but anyway, it represents sort of like an afterlife, quote unquote, but it's really more of a jail. So we have these 2 doors over here that are locked. Knock will not open those. And then we have this pathway to the south that is open. That's their only egress their only egress out of this area. They haven't tried interacting with the curtain, so they could potentially go back to the castle if I want them to. I don't know if I will let that happen yet. That's on the fence, because I have a really cool encounter coming up I do want them to interact with. So, and it's not this one, but let's talk about this one real quick. This closed door up here, they can get through, and the room beyond has 2 treasure chests, a table full of scrolls, and a rug on the floor. There's the rug. And I love that. This is their vision right now, and this token is on the GM layer, meaning only I can see it. So when I move it into their vision, they can't see it. That's really cool. I never noticed that it did that for me before. I knew it did that for them. But anyway, one of the chests is legit. It will give them treasure. The other chest is a mimic. And when the mimic strikes, the Rug of Smothering will strike as well. Or if the rug gets the idea that they're leaving, like they're walking off of the rug, then it will attack them. So there's another little fight here between a mimic and a Rug of Smothering, and then the player characters. That's just a little gotcha. I'm not sure if we're going to run that fight or not. So, like, because we just finished a big fight. No session. No, this is a campaign prep stream. The Stygian Queen, the actual sessions for this campaign run every other Friday night. And so in the intervening Fridays, I run a prep stream where I talk about what I'm going to do to prep for the next session. So thanks for joining anyway, Little Lev. So I'm not sure if I'm going to run this encounter or not. I guess we'll kind of see how everyone feels when we get there, simply because we just finished a combat with the Ogre and the two Dread Warriors, and I don't want to exhaust them on combat. So you know what? Actually, I'm just going to delete it right now. I'm just going to get rid of it. And so then we'll just get rid of one of these treasure chests as well. So leave the rug in there. Why not? A little bit of set dressing. Yeah, thanks for the follow, little Lev. Yeah, I try to be a working DM, but I do end up saving a lot of stuff for during the session for improv. But the stuff that I don't save and the stuff that I do set up, I think is well worth it, and that's why I do these streams. So thanks for the follow. Once they get to this room here, they see a lot of scrolls on the table, and this is the first time that they've seen like records or documents of any sort in this castle. So remember that this is a huge fortification that has been standing for nobody knows how long, aeons, and there's been no like regular denizens that they've come across other than the undead that they've fought. Very Dark Souls themed. But those scrolls, they can search through those and they'll find this handout. It's currently called the Souls of the Abyssal Wraiths. That'll probably change. It's going to have Abyssal Wraiths in there because that was part of the puzzle that got them into this mess. Was only the Abyssal Wraiths know, ... and then they had to solve the puzzle to get the words the way in, and that's how they got to this map. So we have, I'm probably going to move this little bit to the bottom, but we have Abyssal Wraiths named Argalig, Amaka, Sintoga, Narite, and then I just have a bunch of names on there, and these names are largely red herrings. They're not all red herrings, but they largely are, except for a few of them. Like Ogier, the Fey Fiend, the Fey Friend, is a character they will interact with, can interact with. Theodoric the Betrayer, Albray of Lydia, those three are ones that they can interact with. And if they go down to the bottom here, they will see the names of undead knights that they have fought. Sir Tiresias they fought, Sir Percival, and Sir Derek. So now I have a bunch of other names that I can pull as characters for them to fight later, that if they read this list and if they might, they might recognize them, but like, oh, like that's, Sir Geoffrey, like, oh, I remember his name, So the idea is that these souls were claimed by the Abyssal Wraiths because, again, this is sort of like an underworld purgatory sort of thing. These souls were claimed by the Abyssal Wraiths, and the souls further down the list are the ones that were claimed first. So the knights that they fought, the undead knights that they fought, were some of the first ones to fall. And then we have some other characters in here, and again, these are all just random names. It's more of like as a DM, I like to have a list of names behind the screen that I can just pull from when I need to. Like when they're like, what's the blacksmith's name? I can be like, it's Tarson, that sort of thing. So this is me pretty much just showing them my list and adding an air of importance to it. So I can pull from this at any time, and that will, give them sort of a mini aha moment as they start to connect threads. Now, the important part of this list, and it's at the very top, is the souls yet to be claimed. And it has Nal, Hae, and Th. And that's their names. That's Nalimar, Hamir, and Thaldar. Now, the reason why their names aren't full on there is because I decided when I was making this list, like, oh, wouldn't it be fun and kind of creepy if they saw their names on there? And then I was like, that would be cool and creepy, but I don't think that would make sense because, like, these are the souls that have been claimed by the Abyssal Wraiths, and their souls obviously haven't. Like, it's very clear that these characters are still walking around totally fine. They're not undead like Sir Percival or anything. So I was like, okay, well, how about each time Nalhaetith would be a full name. Yeah, it could be. Like, you could cram all those letters together and make a full name pretty easily, such as D&D naming. Just mix some letters up. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if, based on the number of times that they have been reduced to 0 hit points in this campaign so far, that's how many of their letters are on the list. So Nalimar has been reduced to 0 hit points 3 times, so NAL are on there. Hamir 3 times, so HAE, and Thaldar twice, so TH. It's not the best system in the world, because then you look at something like Sir Percival, and you're like, holy cow, he had to be down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, whereas Sir Geld only needed 7, before his soul was claimed. So it's not a perfect system, but it's fun. It's like you're saying in chat, Little Lev, yes, it's cool. It's something that they'll look at it and they'll be like, those are our names, but they don't have that's just a summarization, or that's just something they're surmising on their own. That's not clear information. You know what I mean? They'll just see Nal, Hay, and Tuth, and they'll be like, that's us. But then the next time one of them goes down to 0 HP, and then they happen to check the sheet again, and there's another letter added, then they'll be like, okay, now I get it. Now I get what's going on. And so then they know that once their name fills in, something's going to happen. And I think, because part of this campaign is, part of the things that are happening in this campaign is there's going to be wandering monster encounters or random encounters, very classic D&D, where they have to rest in this castle, and there's the chance that a random encounter will happen. And if you watch the session, you can actually turn in the channel points that you're earning today. You can turn those in during the session, and I think for 1,000 points you can trigger a random encounter. And what that means is the next time, instead of me rolling for a random encounter, it'll just happen automatically if someone turned in points for it. So, but anyway, the random encounters, there's not like a table. The table is empty. But as they unlock certain mini-bosses or certain enemy types, then those enemy types populate the table. So in a previous campaign prep session, I talked about the Pursuer, who is a large, powerful knight. Again, I'm very much into Dark Souls right now, so he's a Dark Souls 2 mini-boss and boss. So I put a Pursuer analog in here, and when they fight him, if they get him down to 25% hit points, he will leave, he'll flee. And then he becomes a random encounter that can pop up while they're resting, so that's fun. And so then I think if one of their names fill up on this sheet, if we get to that point, it'll be probably a few sessions down the road, if one of their names fills up, then an Abyssal Wraith will be coming for them. Now, the Abyssal Wraiths aren't as strong as, the Pursuer, but the point with the Abyssal Wraith is that even if you kill it, it'll just keep coming back. And these are custom enemies that I made, the Abyssal Wraith, the Pursuer. So let's look at the Wraith here real quick. Found this piece of art online. I thought it looked really cool. I actually used this enemy in a previous campaign, and I loved the idea so much that I'm using it here too. It's only a CR4, so it'll be a challenge for the party, but as they level up, and by the time their names fill in, it's not going to be that bad. But again, it's that persistence that's going to be key here. How it works, it's only 14 AC and 65 hit points, so it can take a lot of damage, but it's about average as far as whether or not you're going to be able to hit it. It sticks to shadows. That's its whole thing, is that it avoids sunlight, it avoids direct light, and it stays near shadows. So its Shifting Shadows ability, while it's in dim light or darkness, attacks made against it have disadvantage, which, now that I know better how light works, that doesn't really make sense, because if they're fighting in dim light anyway, they're going to have disadvantage. Well, actually, these guys won't, because they all have... So that does work, because they have dark vision, so they treat dim light as bright light. See, I'm working through this stuff real time, so you're actually seeing my process live, which I think is hopefully useful to DMs out there. But so I think Shifting Shadows will still work, because they all have dark vision, which means they treat dim light as bright light, and darkness as dim light. And the Shifting Shadows just say, while they're in dim light or darkness, it's disadvantage. Regardless of what the player's perception is, that's just how this enemy works. So, I've toned its damage down since the last time I used it. It has a +6 attack, and it deals 1d8 plus 5 necrotic damage. And then it reduces the target's strength score by 1d4, which if that hits, say, the Sorcerer, that's not going to matter, because his strength is already at a -2 mod. But if that hits the Barbarian, that could be very problematic. And I kind of see the Abyssal Wraiths working like the Spectre of Death from the Dungeon Master's Guide in the Deck of Wonders, or Deck of Many Things, where they're laser focused on a single character. I'm not sure. Again, a lot of this is very much open to changing, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. So they find the list of souls. They see their names on the list here. They might try and interact with this curtain. I don't think I'm going to let them. So instead, they head south, and you can see that there's a lot of stairs, and like this really sets the tone. This little map here sets the tone for what this area is like, with all these different levels of elevation and all that. So they then transition to the next map, which is the Great Hall. And this is where the name for today's campaign prep session episode comes from. I titled today Trochaic Heptameter. And there's a reason why I titled it that. So they come into the Great Hall here. I'll zoom the map out a little bit. It's a big open area. And I think, especially since I deleted the Rug of Smothering and the Mimic, since I took those out, here I can put in a bunch of easy enemies for the players to fight. And this, since it's a big area like this is the perfect opportunity for the Barbarian to use his Overrun ability like I talked about last time. So we're actually going to do that. Let's do that. Let's populate this with enemies. I want a bunch of weak enemies that just crowd this area and that aren't a problem for the players unless the players let themselves get surrounded. So I'm thinking mains. I'm thinking mains are the best thing to go with. Here we go. Because mains are demons, right? They are. So, really quick aside, D&D has... D&D, there's devils and demons, right? And in Magic the Gathering, there are devils and demons. And I technically played D&D first, but my knowledge of how Magic the Gathering treated devils and demons was more prevalent. And so I always get them mixed up. I always mix up which ones are the contract keepers and the lawful evil, and which ones are just the crazy beasts, the chaotic evil ones. The demons are the bestial ones. The devils are the contract keepers. Personally, I don't care. I use them all for pretty much the same stuff anyway. And the higher CR ones are generally more conniving and more, and you can tell just by looking at art usually, or even just checking their stat blocks out. But the higher CR ones I treat as more intelligent, more conniving, more scheming, and the lower CR ones like mains here, or like a shadow demon, I treat as more animalistic. I also know that my players aren't really gonna. One of them might care. The guy playing the Hexblade, he might know the difference. I won't say he'll care because he probably won't. As long as he's having fun, he doesn't care. But he might know the difference, and there might be a moment where he's like, well, wait a minute, why is the devil working with demons? So anyway, mains are demons. I do want to use them because they're perfect. They're small, they're easy to hit, they're easy to kill, they have 9 armor, they are 9 AC, they have 9 hit points, and they only have a claw attack, and they move 20 feet. So they're exactly what I want. They're slow, they're small, they're not threatening unless you let yourself get surrounded. Especially to a 4th level party. So we're going to put a bunch of these guys out here. They're only CR 1/8, so I think we can go ham. That's the saying for today's session, I guess, is go ham. I've said it like 3 times. So we're going to put them here, all on the lower level of this room, and we're going to put a couple up front. And now if we check our character's vision, yeah, they do get to see, they see all of them. Thaldar and Hamir have 60 feet of dark vision. Nalimar, our warlock, has 120 feet of dark vision, so he has further. So I'm actually going to do, we're going to do something a little more fun. We're going to take these guys. Oops. We're going to take these guys and move them down to like there. So now, Thaldar sees 2 and 1, and Nalimar sees a bunch more. That's just a fun little trick. Totally not necessary, but that lets the character who took that Eyes of the Devil, or whatever it's called, Devil Sight, feel a little more unique, feel like it's useful. You know what I mean? So we're going to put them there, but that's not it. We're also going to have some come in from the sides, because we have these side passages here. I'm pointing to I do this all the time. I point to the screen with my fingers, if you can see my finger. Oh my gosh. All right, anyway, let's put some mains in here. We're going to fill up these hallways with them. They only move 20 feet, so we're going to want them to be nearby. Well, no, that's fine if they dash their first turn, because the players aren't going to be probably expecting more of them to filter in, and we're just going to do 4 in each hallway. This might be too much. They're only 1/8, but this might be too many 1/8 enemies for it might be too challenging of an encounter than what I want. I don't want the players to feel like their lives are in danger in this encounter. I don't want them to feel like they need to use a lot of their resources. I just literally want this encounter to show off the Barbarian's Overrun ability. That's why I'm putting this together. And I guess if the Sorcerer took Fireball, I don't know if he has access, if he has... No, I think he gets that at 5th level. So I'm literally just doing this to show off Overrun, but I'm doing it in a way that feels cool and interesting and also a little tense, a little scary, because when they come out and they engage these guys and these start moving, you know, up from the south side of the room here, and then that's when these ones will start to actually emerge from the doors on the side, and then they'll realize, oh no, we have them on all sides now. If this ends up being too much, I have to cut from the hallways. I can't cut from here because the players will have seen everything ahead. But that's a small little... Well, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19. That's 19 CR8. CR1/8, rather. 19 CR1/8. And CR1/8 is how much experience? 25. So 25 times 19 divided by 3 gives us... Everybody's going to get 159 experience from that encounter. So I have to log that. The players decided that they wanted to do experience, so I have to make sure that I'm keeping track of how much experience I'm giving out and that sort of thing. So we're going to do... Oh no, I want the Stygian Queen. And let's add a handout, because I don't have one for this yet. We'll call this 15 Horned Devil. No, we'll call it Mains. Oh yeah, Horned Devil. Great Hall. That's fine. Great Hall. Mains encounter 159 XP each. Now that's assuming that I don't reduce the number of mains in the encounter, which I might. So then after that, we'll save that and minimize it. After that, after they clear all that out, so down at the bottom here, we have this throne that's empty. And Nalimar can see that from where he is currently, all the way up there, because that's at the edge of his vision. But then we'll have this guy come out, and maybe during the fight. I think during the fight would be cool, so that Nalimar can see this horned devil with these huge wings and this helm that covers his eyes and everything, just kind of like, you know, lumber out of this hallway to the south and just plop down on that throne and just sit there and observe. And then as that happens, this other little guy will come out and I'll probably have him up here. Probably have him next to. Well, I like the imagery of him being unable to be on the same level as the Horned Demon. We're going to remove this guy's name, or Lucaris. This is also an enemy that I created for a previous campaign that I'm just reusing. Because why not? I mean, let's make our lives easier as DMs, right? This by using enemies that already exist, whether they're ones I already made up or ones just straight from the monster manual, that frees up my brain space to then create cool encounters like this one. So after they defeat the mains, assuming they don't attack these two, which they shouldn't, because Orlacaris is a CR8, the Horned Devil is a CR11. That would be very unwise of them to attack these two. Then they will address them. That Horned Devil is named Zalgades. And they'll probably... Actually, these two will probably just observe unless the players approach. And now I wanted... This is where it gets really fun. I wanted Zalgades to talk differently. And I don't mean that I wanted to use an accent for him or I wanted to do a voice. That kind of stuff is very easy to fall into like jokey territory, and I wanted Zalgades to have a bit more of an air of like dread kind of around him, an alien feel, you know, because he's this devil, he's this fiend from the abyss. I want him to really sound like he's not of the material plane. And then I thought about what could I do? And so I thought, well, let's do something with poetry. Let's have him speak in verse or in stanzas. And I was like, well, it's really easy to do like iambic pentameter, but that can sound childish after a while. Like it sounds cool, but it also can tend to sound a little on the childish side. So then I was reminded, because I watch a lot of YouTube, I watch a lot of video game LPs, and one of the YouTubers that I was watching recently just finished an LP of Halo 2 a little while ago. And I was reminded of the Gravemind. If anyone's familiar with Halo 2, the Gravemind in Halo 2 has a very rhyming type of speech, at least in the early parts. As the game goes on and as Halo 3 goes on, he loses it. But the type of speech that the Gravemind uses is called Trochaic Heptameter. And I was like, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to do Trochaic Heptameter for Zalgadis. I don't know how important of a character Zalgadis is going to be, but I can see him being someone that the characters will go back to over and over again. So, what is Trochaic Heptameter? Let's talk about that. Trochaic Heptameter is a type of speech, or rather of poetry, that uses 14-syllable stanzas and 14-syllable lines, and every other syllable in each line is emphasized. It's hard. I may have made this too hard for myself, but it's also really fun. So let's just grab one. If the players ask where they are, I have these. So I tried to guess what the players would ask of Zalgadis, and I have set responses. And then at the end, like when enough of this information is given, or if the players start asking questions that I don't have something prepped for, because Trochaic Heptameter is hard as balls to improv, I will have, like, he'll give them like a quest or something. There'll be some sort of indication at the end that he's like, I'm done talking, go do this thing if you want to get out, or if you want whatever your goal is, that sort of thing. So if the players ask where they are, he responds with, "A well as deep as the blackened heart of the world long dead, a pit to collect the souls which leak from graves overhead. In all the plains there is no world as dark and dead as this, for thou now walk, living souls, at the edge of the abyss." So I have an A-B rhyme scheme going on there, and I think most of my responses are like that. But it's the emphasis that gets difficult. So I tried to write these lines in such a way that the emphasis comes naturally. So looking at that first line, it would be, "A well as deep as the blackened heart of the world long dead." So emphasis on the first syllable out of every other. A well as deep as the blackened heart of the world long dead. So it'd be something like that. So it's slow. That also forces me to slow down my speech, which is really cool as well, because that lends an air of importance. Now, I'm going to have to practice this stuff a lot before next Friday, because I want me to have it sound at least somewhat natural, because this is how he talks. So it's going to sound natural for him. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be doing a voice. I'm not going to be like dropping the octave. I'm not going to be trying to talk deeper or anything like that, because that's just going to come across silly. I'm just going to use my regular voice, and I'm just going to read these. And then I thought, it's creepy that he's talking like that, but wouldn't it be creepier if he never addressed the party? If he was doing it through another person, if he was doing it by proxy. And so this guy down here, who his name is Orlakaris, but the characters will never hear that, because this guy is basically the mouth of Zalgadis. He comes out, he does all the speaking, and Zalgadis is literally just sitting there staring at them. And so when the players ask who is that, so I should have something like, I should also write something in there about if the players ask, if they indicate that they want to know the relationship between these two and who is who, that sort of thing. And so then it'll be obvious that Orlakaris is talking for Zalgadis. And so Orlakaris will even refer to itself in third person, and it will refer to Zalgadis in first person, because it's literally Zalgadis' voice coming from Orlakaris' body. A little confusing, but again, I think that's just weird enough to where it's really going to hammer home the idea that these things are of the abyss. They are not of the material plane. They are alien. They are evil. They are not humanoid. That sort of thing. They are the other. So that's that, and then these guys will retreat off the map. And where's the nearest exit off this map? That's there. That's really it. Oh, there's up there too. So it's really far away from them. So I guess they'll have some magic gobbledygook that they use, but they leave. And then the players. So then this is where I'm kind of that's as far as I've planned so far. So now I have to think about what is Zalgadis going to be asking the players to do, or rather, not necessarily asking, but directing them. If they say, "How do we get out of here?" What is he going to be doing? What is he going to direct them to? So maybe they need a specific item. They need a specific artifact in order to get back through that curtain back to the castle proper. And now that's when I want to go, that's when I look at these rooms, because even though this map is big, like let's look at this whole map. Let's look at this whole map at once. This is a big map, but it's very linear because there are these elevation changes in this big room here. And there really is only one path through this map, and that goes like you can go all the way down here, but these are 10-foot inclines, these steps. So you could climb over them, I guess, or you take the one path, which is this way. It goes like this, and this is the only path you can take. So even though it's a big map, I really like this map, because even though it's really big, it's also really linear. Nope, we want to go like that, out to the throne, across to here, boom, 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 and then they can go out, or they can go down here, like that. And then there's the exit. So it's really just a big U that they have to make. So that's when I go, okay, do I want to force them to explore this entire map, or do I want them to only explore part of it? And I think I'm leaning towards part of it. I think I want them to be able to get out of here in relatively short order. I don't want to force them to stay here and go through every room, because then that gives them the opportunity to decide to explore further and then get rewarded for that extra exploration by finding other bits of lore, fighting other enemies, learning more about the Abyss, that sort of thing. So I think that the object that they need to possess, I'm probably going to put it down in this bottom room down here, in the southeast corner. So they have to go through 1, 2, 3 rooms to get there. And this first room is probably going to be empty, or near to empty, because those mains are coming out of there. So it's kind of like that's where they were, you know what I mean? So they vacated. This room will be something other than a combat encounter. Maybe there are some souls here that they can talk to. Some of the captured souls. And then this room, maybe that'll be another combat encounter. I'm not sure. Let's think. They have the finding the scrolls and all that, which they might not find. They might not find that scroll room. They have the combat encounter with the mains, which is hopefully trivial. But I mean, I did put a lot of mains in there, so it could be a lot harder than I expected. And then they have an RP encounter with Zalgadis and Orlakaris. And then we have... Yeah, so let's have another RP encounter here, and then a combat encounter in this room. And now this room, there's a big elevation change. They go up the stairs and up the stairs again, so I probably want to put a ranged character up top, and then have some melee characters in the corners. Again, I'm thinking very Dark Souls, because that type of encounter design is just great. It gets players thinking about their position, and like positional advantage, and it gets them thinking tactically. Tactically? There we go, not tactily. Tactically. Gets them thinking tactically. And that's my goal. And that's what I've been doing for this whole campaign so far, so we're going to continue with that. So, let's look at this RP encounter. Do I have a ghost token? I do. Perfect. We're going to drop one ghost in here. And then I kind of want to dress this room a little bit. So let's put some items in here too. Maybe there's like the ghostly remains of this character's possessions or wealth or something. Oh, that's kind of silly. Could just drop a bunch of bone piles in there. Switch to the map layer. Let's dress this room with the mains first. Let's put bone piles in here. So, big old pile of bones. And let's turn the dynamic lighting off just so we can see what we're doing more clearly. There we go. Big old pile of bones. Kind of blends in with the background. Maybe we should put it up there. Or force them to go through it. No, that's a good spot. And then let's do another... No, one pile is good. We got braziers, we got coffins, we got cards, chairs, coins, silver and gold coins, interesting. Rugs, forges, baskets, rubble. I got enough rubble on the map already, I don't need more rubble. So this is literally just me dressing it. Which I can save that for later. Let's focus on the RP stuff and the combat stuff. So there's a ghost here. Who should this ghost be? Let's look at our list of names that I already said. Handout. Souls the Abyssal Wraiths. I want this to be someone who's been here a while, but not as long as this group, because this group is going to be primarily enemies. And also this is the token, this is a minor quibble, but I'm using existing art because I don't want to make new stuff right now, so that ghost art is female, so we're going to pull a female name. Traditionally female name. Obviously, names don't have a gender. Maynhild? Maynhild the Widow? Brilti. Naldala. Naldala. I like that name. Naldala. Maybe this should be Naldala. Sid, call me. Call me? Call me. Call me. Inaris. Inaris sounds too much like Daenerys, so I don't really want to use that one. Brilti. I think we'll use Brilti. We'll use Brilti. I'm going to turn off show nameplate. Make sure the players can't see it. Okay, good. So then that way, it's only... Whoops, no, I want to show it for me. But players can't see it. So, save. So now I can see it. So that when I'm role-playing this section, I know who the character is. Let's open up our Great Hall bit. Let's number this room. GM layer. Text. Red text. And let's raise the size to like 26. 16. Brilti. And let's change that font, because that's thin. We want something bold. Something that stands out. Candle? Yep, that's what it is. Brilti. Can we darken that a little bit? Oopsies. This is what my prep looks like when I am making when I'm prepping an online game. I do the things that make the act of running the game easier for me. And this is part of it. A lot of people say that I over-prep, which that's fine. I shouldn't say a lot of people. A few people have said that I over-prep. A few people look at the prep that I do and they're like, oh, like I usually just come up with a list of important points or notes or whatever, and then I wing it. That's fine. I do that sometimes too. But for the most part, especially when I'm streaming the campaign, but for the most part, even when I'm not, I do like to prep more. Because the simple act of writing things down cements it into my head. So even if I never look at those notes again, the fact that I wrote the notes down in the first place helps me remember it when the time comes. Also, it's just like I like having my notes organized in such a way that I can just glance at them and know, or like I can page through stuff really quickly and see what I need to find. And if I'm making everything up on the fly, there's a high chance that I'll forget stuff because I don't always take notes while I play. I know that's a cardinal rule. Everyone's like, oh, if you're DMing a game, make sure you're always taking notes. And I take some notes, but I don't take a lot of notes, especially on like stuff, unless like, and then I don't take a lot of notes. And that way, when I do make up something on the fly, it stands out more, and then I know to write it down. Whereas if I'm making stuff up all the time, then I'm more focused on like the players, and I'm watching them and being like, okay, did they buy it? Like, is this working? It's working. Okay, like I'm always fiddling with a bunch of little dials while I'm DMing, and having stuff prepped like this, that's that's fewer dials that I have to mess with. Anyway, all that to say, oops, we made this a new room, so let's save that, the Great Hall, and let's make a new handout. for 16 Brilty. So, Brilty... So we need to come up with what she was doing, like what was her purpose. Now, the lore behind the castle, and the players don't know this yet, but it is the anchor point between multiple planes of existence. So it is this crossroads between multiple different planes that the players... I grabbed a Tiefling power card, by the way, in case you're wondering what I'm playing with. It is an anchor point between multiple planes of existence, so it's this place that kind of holds these planes together. But the castle is crumbling. It is decaying. And it's decaying because the castle should have no one... Like, it has what's called the empty throne. There should be no one in charge of the castle. It should just be allowed to work as a force of nature that it is. Which is weird to call it a force of nature when it's a castle. But anyway. But someone has sat on the empty throne and has claimed dominion over this castle. And the power that it has. And that has caused the castle to decay. And so what that means is that people have found their way here as a result of either this person sitting on the throne or a result of just... I think it's probably because the Stygian Queen, name of the campaign, is on the empty throne. That is what's causing adventurers to find their way here, like the player characters, or like Sir Oscar that I talked about in a previous episode of the prep stream. So Brilty is going to be someone like that, but she's going to be older. What if she also has knowledge of the hag? So there was a hag that the players encountered early on who was like a fortune teller, who was not dead, who was super old, but also couldn't remember ever coming to the castle, and just had been living in the same spot for as long as she remembers. I think, yeah, so Brilty found her way to the castle in a similar manner to the PCs. Brilty held conversations with Della Smokesurge. Brilty... Brilty was killed. So now, because she's dead, she's a ghost. That's not a surprise to anyone. The ghost is dead. So what killed her? I could do the Behir. I could do the captive beast, which would not have been captive at the time that she was killed. I think that's probably what I'll do. The captive beast is another optional mini-boss that the players might encounter. It's locked in an armory, so they know that there are good weapons and stuff in there. But they have to go through the beast to get it. And the beast is another one that could become a random encounter like the Pursuer or like the Abyssal Wraiths. So Brilty was killed by the captive beast. Her body can be found in, and let's look at the rooms that I have. My kids are, it sounds like they're up. They're playing Minecraft currently, so you might hear them in the background. We could do the Den of Shadows. I don't really have anything for that yet. So we could say that her body is found in the Den of Shadows. Killed by the captive beast who was wandering the halls. Her body can be found in the Den of Shadows. Now she should have something on her body that the players want. Also, the players have 2 items now. They have 2 polished Jawbones, which are a unique item. Not unique, but they're a item specific to this campaign that I don't have anything for yet. I don't know what those do, so maybe this should illuminate some of that. Polished Jawbones. Maybe they allow you to speak with the dead. Oh, yeah, maybe in order to speak with Brilty, they have to break one of those Jawbones. I like that. In order to speak with Brilty, the PCs must break a polished Jawbone. So then they realize that there are resources. Polished Jawbones, that's something they found just by searching rooms. So that means I need to start inserting more of these ghosts, so then they have to pick and choose who they're who they're going to talk to. So then each one has to have important information. So what is on her body in the Den of Shadows? Could do a key, but that's kind of boring. Let's do a magic item. Let's do something that isn't plot relevant. I'm going to go to D&D Beyond here real quick. No, you know what? Let's leave that. I realize that I pulled it away from Vision, but let's do it all right on here. D&D Beyond. Let's do a magic item. Let's do something that's fun, something that's interesting and unique. So not something that's plot relevant. I want to reward them with knowledge when they use that Jawbone. So we're going to do, I've been only giving uncommon items so far. We're going to go to a rare item, rare magic item. Amulet of Health, what's that? Con scores 19 while you wear it. That's nice. Armor plus 1 would be, well, who's wearing armor? I think just the Hexblade. I think that's it, because we have this weird group where they're like, they don't use armor and they don't use conventional weapons except for the Barbarian. So, but we want something that's a little more interactive, something that's a little more interesting. Bag of Beans, Bag of Wonders, that kind of stuff is interesting, but that's not quite. That's a little more on the not silly side, but a little more on the whimsical side than what I want for this campaign. What's the Cape of the Mountbach? Is that the Dimensional Door one? It is. Yeah, that one's a little too powerful. Chime of Opening, we already have someone with knock, so I don't want to encourage that. A Cloak of Displacement. Creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls against you until you take damage, and then once you take damage, they don't have disadvantage until the start of your next turn. Our players have relatively low AC, other than the Hexblade. So I think a Cloak of Displacement is great. Also, it's the kind of thing that they're going to fight over. They're all going to want a Cloak of Displacement. On Brilty's body can be found a Cloak of Displacement. And I'll make a handout for the cloak so that I can show that to them. Brilty found her way into the castle in a similar manner to the PCs. She held conversations with Della Smokesurge. What was her thoughts on Della? Didn't trust Della. I see Brilty as being kind of like a lawful neutral, lawful good character. Maybe like a shield maiden. Someone who was held to a code. Or just a female adventurer, even, Killed by the captive beast who was wandering the halls. Her body can be found in the Den of Shadows. On Brilty's body can be found a Cloak of Displacement. And she should have some knowledge of the Abyss. Brilty tells the players that when your life force diminishes, your name is added to the list of souls. When your name is added to the list of souls. After that, an Abyssal Wraith will come to claim your soul for the Abyss. It's not written the best. There's a lot of repetition in that, but it gets the message across. So I'm going to save that. And let's move Brilty down to there. Perfect. So now we have a nice little RP moment with Brilty. And that's an optional RP moment. They have to snap a jawbone in order to do it. I think to get that across, let's imply that someone else did this beforehand. Lying at Brilty's feet are 2 halves of a polished jawbone. So who did she speak with previously? Oh, okay. So the captive beast came up previously because, like in the previous encounter that I mentioned it, is with Sir Oscar. And Sir Oscar said that one of his companions set it free, and it chased him, or one of his companions directed it towards him, I guess would be the way to say it. Which one of his companions did that? Who's the traitor? Do I have that in the list of names? Theodoric, the Betrayer. Brilty. So as a ghost. So let's add this to the bottom because it's the most recent. Brilty, as a ghost, has spoken with an adventurer named Theodoric, who inquired about the captive beast. So Brilty came across the beast while it was just wandering the halls of the castle, while it was loose, and it killed her. And then while she was dead, Theodoric found his way here and found Brilty and talked to Brilty, and she told him about the captive beast, and he was like, oh, okay, because Theodoric doesn't like Oscar. They're butting heads. Even though they're adventuring companions, they don't like each other. And Theodoric was like, okay, I can use this captive beast to take care of Oscar for me. And so he does. And so that they're probably gonna find this information before they ever learn about Oscar. I thought they would have gotten to Oscar by now, but they skipped him completely. Because again, it's a large open campaign. Like, this is pretty open world. And they can go wherever they want. So they have that with Brilty. And now let's go to the... Gosh, I do want to dress this. I'll dress it later. I keep looking at that room and I'm like, it's just so empty. I want to add something. But I'll add something later. So now let's finish off today's session by prepping a combat encounter. Let's see. A combat encounter. Our party is 4th level. They just fight them. They had a short rest. And then they're fighting the mains. They might take another short rest after that. Maybe. Probably not. I mean, who knows? So this fight, let's copy our... and paste it here. And this will be 17... I don't know, Great Hall Fight. That's what we'll call it. Put it up there. I'll put it right there. Now let's look at our enemies again and see what enemies we want to put in here. So now we're establishing that this abyss area that they're in is full of demons and some undead and devils. We have the Armonite, who's CR 7. That's too strong. That's too strong. We have the... Oh, I could do a black pudding again. Oozes are so rough. I love them. I love them. We have the Bulazao. It's a CR 3. We can do a couple Bulazao. And I do want a ranged character here. What's the range on the Bulazao's stench? 30 feet! That's huge. I like using the Bulazao. I was going to use originally the Bulazao out here. Before this session, before this prep session, I was like, ooh, we'll put Bulazaos out here. And then we'll have mains with them. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. Am I saying that name right? Let's go to D&D Beyond. Make sure my headphones are on. Am I saying this right? Bulazao. I was close. Bulazao. Yeah, let's put some Bulazaos out here. That's such a weird name. Set it to token layer. We'll do one Bulazao. And now I want something that's ranged. What demon or devil is equipped with a ranged weapon? Etten, Gargoyle, Gelatinous Cube, Ghast, Ghost, Ghoul. These are all... not helpful. Gorgon, Grey Ooze. Maybe we'll just do 2 Bulazaos. Let's do 2. We'll put 1 up here. So they see the 1. And it's, it's perched on top of that staircase. And then it isn't until they come in through the... I'm doing it again where I pointed the screen. It isn't until they come in through the doorway here that this other one makes his presence known. Leaps out and attacks. Or what's weaker than a Bulazao that I could potentially use 2 of without overwhelming the party? Vrox are stronger. Don't want to use those. Could do like a Wraith. White. I think there's CR3 as well. Yep. So I don't want to do those. Because the Bulazao's CR3 2 CR3s against a 4th level party is going to be a pretty decent match. So let's just do it. Let's just do that. 2 Bulazows, and this one is carrying the item that they need. So I'm going to put a little flag on them. What do they need to get through the curtain? What do they need? What sort of item? I need something that's very abyssal, something that is indicative of the abyss. This is going to be 17 Great Hall Fight. We need to do our math real quick and make sure that I'm calculating. So CR3 enemies, Bulazows, are 700 XP. Yep. So that's 1400 XP. Oops, not times. Clear. 1400 XP divided by 3 player characters for 467 experience. So we've got Bulazow encounter, 467 experience each. Yeah, that'll be, oops, not 9,460. There we go. That'll be tough. The southernmost Bulazow is holding. So I want something like the polished jawbone. Like that establishes a tone. It established a tone when they found it. Like it's weird, it's morbid, but there's also like a degree of almost like someone coveted it because it's polished. So something like that. What is the Bulazow? It has to be about the abyss. Bulazow is holding or wearing. Bulazow is wearing a crown of some sort. No, it's too regal. I don't want that. I want something that's darker. An effigy. It's holding an effigy. An effigy. It's holding an effigy of a humanoid shape. So in order to get back through, you need to have the effigy, and the effigy is destroyed when you use it. So the whole party can go through the curtain back to the castle, but it destroys the effigy. So if they come back to this area, which at some point they'll probably have to, I'm thinking, I'm not sure. If they come back to the abyss, then while they're in the abyss, they'll have to find another effigy. And now that I know what that is, now that I know it's an effigy, let's change the symbol on the Bulazow to that. Okay, so let's talk about what we have prepped, because we're just about done here. I talked about the room previous with the scrolls that they could find that had the names of the souls claimed by the Abyssal Wraiths, and their names are starting to be on there. I should turn dynamic lighting back on before I forget. They see that their names are starting to show up on there, and if one of them falls to 0 hit points again, they'll see that another letter of their name populates on that list. They have the fight with the mains, which is a great opportunity for our Barbarian to use his Overrun ability and just cleave through a bunch of them. So he gets to use that new feat. They have the discussion with, the brief discussion with Zalgadis and Orlakaris, and get to interact with that demon who speaks, or the devil who speaks in Trochaic Heptameter. They get this room where the mains stayed. There's a big pile of bones. We'll do some description there. We'll dress this room as well. They get to talk to Brilty if they break their polished jawbone. And then they have the fight with the 2 Bulazows, which gives them the effigy, and that gets them out of here. And then they could continue through the rest of this area. And I'll populate these rooms with optional encounters that are similar to the 2 we did before. It's similar to this RP encounter, similar to this fight, that sort of thing. So they'll be like, this looks like a good fight room, you know? This looks like it'd be like a treasure room, maybe with a puzzle. This one looks like it would be a lore room, so maybe there would be a bunch of ghosts or a bunch of souls in here that they wouldn't be able to talk with all of them because they only have a couple of polished jawbones. But you know what I mean? They would be able to at least, there'd be some sort of interaction here that isn't combat, might be a little more on the puzzle side. And then this room has those doors that lead deeper into the Abyssal Asylum. That's what it'll be called, the Abyssal Asylum. Has those 2 doors that lead deeper into the Abyssal Asylum that are locked, but I think that if the sorcerer uses his knock spell that would unlock those doors. So they could get through there, and then they can get back up to here. So potential for more, but really they only need to go through a little less than half of the total encounters. And that's where we stand. I think that's a good amount of prep done for this session. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me for today's campaign prep session. I look forward to getting this session that we prepped today up and running next Friday. Again, this is for the campaign The Stygian Queen, which you can watch on this channel every other Friday night at around 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then the intervening or the middle Fridays, the every others between those sessions are when we do the prep. And this was a great session, so I had a lot of fun with this one. Also, next Tuesday, again, I'm going to remind you that that's the first episode in our Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign stream. So definitely join us for that. That starts at 7 p.m. and that runs every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So check it out. The experience points that you've been earning today by watching can be used to influence the Stygian Queen and maybe even Rime of the Frost Maiden. I haven't talked to the players yet, but you might be able to buy them health potions and inspiration with the channel points that you're earning today. So thank you very much for joining me once again. My name is Nicholas Corey, and I will catch you guys next time.